Hey everyone, what's going on? If you're new to this channel, please go to the video description right now and check out the links that I'm going to leave in the description called How to Gematria. And you'll understand how I'm coming up with what I'm talking about in this video, and you'll learn to apply it for yourself because every single day, what I am talking about in these videos, it is applied to our mainstream media, our sports leagues. If you look up our history is all coded with this system of coding numbers into words and phrases. And if you pay enough attention in the mainstream media, they also use what I call themes. They use certain topics and then they follow along with it and they intermingle all of these stories all connected back to a certain theme. Such as this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. Anthony Rizzo, the Chicago Cubs player, went to high school there. And remember, the Cubs in 2016 won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. And if you look up Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, she died at the age of 108, and she even died on the date 14/5. And if you write out Chicago, Illinois, it equals 145. And the year that the Cubs won, it was their 145th season, and a ton of other stuff. Even, the Cubs won exactly 67 weeks before this Valentine's Day massacre. The word Valentine's in Gematria equals 67. Nicholas Cruz, the guy who shot it up, supposedly, equals 67, and he was 19 years old. The 19th prime number is 67. He was born exactly 19 weeks in the same year that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas died in 1998. He was born exactly 19 weeks after her. Anthony Rizzo's birthday, August 8th, was 6 months and 7 days before Valentine's. Much, much more going on with it. But the purpose of this video here, I'll leave links in the description for what I just talked about. There's a ton of information. But I decided to look up other famous people who had went to this school. And I noticed that this pop punk band, New Found Glory, had two members that went to this school. And I thought, interesting, two of these members went to the school. There's not a very big list of people here. So I decided to look up the band, and I figured I'll look up and see if they have any new albums or anything like that, because it's probably connected to that. And I noticed they had this album called Makes Me Sick, and it came out on April 28th of 2017. And their first lead single off of it is called Happy Being Miserable. It released on February 16th. And when I went and looked up this song, let me see if I can find it here. When I looked up this song, I just want to play a clip really quick and show you that it's, they're doing a spoof of the movie Stand By Me. So just check this out really quick.
Hey, Gordo, why don't you tell us a story? I don't know.
Yeah, come on, Gordo. Yeah, come on.
Okay. Do you guys remember that band, New Found Glory?
Yeah.
Well, a couple of years ago, they put out a record called Makes Me Sick.
So, alright. Here's the pie eating part even. Just wanted to show that they're doing a spoof of the film Stand By Me. And I have this humongous playlist from back at the end of October, how I talked about Marilyn Manson and how Stand By Me is super connected to whatever is going on in the media in regards to themes and whatnot. Even at the beginning of October, I talked about Marilyn Manson and how he's connected to Charles Manson and how all of the kneeling stuff in the NFL is all synced up to Marilyn Manson because of his helter-skelter theory, in which he believed that, the blacks are eventually going to rise up, right? And think about that in regards to, the NFL and the, kneeling during the national anthem for black justice, whatever else. And then Charles Manson dies in November, right? Who else was talking about Charles Manson in October? Not very many people were even bringing up Charles Manson. And then Charles Manson dies in November after I talked about how it was synced up to the NFL and whatever else, And it was also synced up to Philadelphia, and then the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So anyway, the reason that Stand By Me was so important was I I was talking about JFK and how he was synced up to the Pope. JFK died 144 days after meeting the Pope, and Donald Trump this year met the Pope on the 144th day of the year, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like I said, I'll leave the link in the description. But I noticed that, Marilyn Manson used to date Rose McGowan, and Rose McGowan was in his music video about the JFK assassination, the music video called Coma White. And Rose McGowan was all of a sudden in the news calling out Harvey Weinstein for, sexually assaulting her or whatever. She's one of the big people in regards to Harvey Weinstein just after Hurricane Harvey, and Matt Harvey being the first pitcher at Houston to pitch against Houston after Hurricane Harvey and whatever else. So I noticed this with Rose McGowan, and I noticed when I was researching Rose McGowan that her father was a leader of this group called the Children of God. And in August, I mentioned River Phoenix, who was a character in the movie Stand By Me, in regards to how there was some type of water theme. And then we got the Houston flood right after that, which is funny. But there was some type of water theme, but I was mentioning River Phoenix, who was a character in the movie Stand By Me, and how he was also in that cult or religious group called Children of God. And, there was just the weirdest stuff ever. Like when they whacked off, they had to, pretend that they were having sex with Jesus or whatever else. And I just found it interesting. So Rose McGowan was making me think of River Phoenix again. And then I noticed that Corey Feldman was in the news talking about the guy who molested Corey Haim and whatever else. And then we got the story of Wendy Williams dressed up like the Statue of Liberty collapsing. And the guest on her show was Jerry O'Connell, who was the fat kid in Stand By Me. And then I said in the video that I made on it, I talked about how there seems to be a Stand By Me theme that's going on in the media. But the only people I'm not seeing are Will Wheaton, or possibly it's something to do with Kiefer Sutherland. And then 2 days later, we had Will Wheaton on the Big Bang Theory, the brand new Big Bang Theory, and he hadn't been on that for almost 1.5 seasons. And then on November 5th, we got the Sutherland Springs church shooting. Kiefer Sutherland Springs church shooting. And that same day, we got an article on Fox News about Will Wheaton saying that it didn't matter that the people prayed, they still died, just making fun of them for going to church and whatever. So there's a headline article about Will Wheaton on that same day as the Sutherland church shooting or whatever, just after I had mentioned this in my video. So I knew I was onto some theme, and now it's interesting that I'm seeing this newfound glory as alumni of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and then their newest single in the video, they spoof Stand By Me, right? So I was trying to think of what exactly the point of that was. And I still don't have it figured out completely, But it is interesting, too, because I forgot to mention, Wolf Blitzer, that same day as this Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, we got the ex-FBI guy or whatever fake crying on Wolf Blitzer. Let me find it here. Ex-FBI agent breaks down on Wolf Blitzer. And what's interesting about it is he says a child of God is dead. Look at it. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah. A child of God is dead, said the former FBI agent, speaking on the Situation Room. The child of God. And think about it. Children of God. The cult with River Phoenix and Rose McGowan's dad is a leader of, or was a leader of. So it's definitely something significant. There's more to this, but I'm going to skip over that. But I went back and watched some of my videos because I was like, what is Stand By Me have to do with what's going on here? And the very first video I put in this playlist was the Marilyn Manson one, where I first noticed this Stand By Me theme. So I went back and I looked up Marilyn Manson, and some things just instantly clicked I had forgot about. Marilyn Manson, for one, the band is out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You know, in the same county as the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. You know, it's really close to where this shooting took place. Marilyn Manson. Also, remember this story about Marilyn Manson that came out on September 24th about how Columbine ruined his career? This was just before the giant gun prop fell on him and hurt his leg, and he had to cancel part of his tour and whatever else. I'll explain more about that in a second, but think about it. Think about the giant guns falling on him, and then this is all about gun control and the Stoneman Douglas High School. This story on CNN came out on September 24th, which is the shooter of the Stoneman Douglas shooting's birthday. Nicholas Cruz or whatever. That's his birthday, September 24th. How interesting, you know. And then he's talking about the Columbine massacre destroyed his career. And if you go back and look up Marilyn Manson, after Columbine, a bunch of the news and whatever had, you know, made accusations that part of the reason that they shot up the school was because they listened to Marilyn Manson's music. And Marilyn Manson created this whole album called Hollywood, basically as a, you know, a comeback at the media and whatever else. That's what it says in regards to this, but, you know, he's just part of the system, which I'll explain in a second. But, you know, he made this concept album basically just calling it out, you know. It even talks about it in here, you know. It's his rebuttal to all of that in regards to him being part of the reason of the Columbine shooting. Hollywood. But if you look up this album, there's even a song called Valentine's Day on this album, you know. So interesting. There's even a connection to Columbine that I'm going to mention at the end of this video in regards to the Valentine's Day shooting and whatnot. But just keep that in mind. Marilyn Manson connected to this Columbine shooting, makes a whole concept album, rebuttaling it. The band is from right next to the Stoneman Douglas High School. Has a song called Valentine's Day on it. Also, his newest tour or whatever. So, this is where he got injured. These two giant guns supposedly fell on his leg and broke his leg and whatever else. And then he had to cancel his tour, and he canceled his tour, and he played one more show in the United States, and then he went and did a European tour, and then he came back and remade up all the canceled shows. The one show that he played after being injured in the United States was in San Bernardino on November 5th, the same day as the Sutherland Springs Church shooting. And that same day, there was an article about Marilyn Manson using a gun as a prop. And he also used a microphone that was in the shape of a gun or whatever. And people called him out and said, you know, why would you do that in San Bernardino that had a shooting in 2015? And this is also the same day as the Sutherland Springs Church shooting. That's all about guns and whatever. So people were, you know, they made an article about this in regards to that. And that was the only show he played in the United States after getting injured. The same day as the Sutherland Springs Church shooting. So, another thing I noticed in regards to Valentine's Day and Marilyn Manson is he got injured on his Heaven Upside Down tour, and his Heaven Upside Down album that just released on October 6th this year, if you look that album up, it was even supposed to release on Valentine's Day, right? It was supposed to release on Valentine's Day of 2017, and then supposedly he didn't like the quality of it, so they pushed it to October 6th. But once again, another connection to Valentine's Day. He's connected to all these shooting stuff and gun stuff and getting injured by the guns, connected to the Columbine shooting, which is significant to this school shooting, among other school shootings. You know, and his album Say 10, right? And one of the main songs is You Say God and I Say 10. I explained this in my previous videos, a bunch more to it. But the reason he says that to say 10 instead of God is because God in Gematria equals 10. And it's also a play on Satan, and Satan also equals 10 in Gematria. And 10 was a big thing that I was talking about in the video in regards to Donald Trump. And 10 days before is a number that's connected to 144, which is a number around political assassination. And the JFK files were released on October 26th, which was 10 days before Marilyn Manson played that show on November 5th in San Bernardino. And that just so happened to be 144 days after Donald Trump's after Donald Trump's birthday. So absolutely significant. And you would say, well, Marilyn Manson wouldn't practice this and do this knowledge. When you look up his Hollywood album, they even tell you about how it's a concept album in regards to rebuttaling Columbine and whatnot. But there's also a central character, and the central character is the protagonist, Adam Kadmon, a name derived from the Kabbalah, which means original man. So Marilyn Manson knows about Kabbalah along with multiple other celebrities and whatnot. Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism that stems back to, the belief that God created the world by merging the letter with the number, which is Gematria, right? That is used in the English language. It's not just in the Hebrew language. It's absolutely used in the English language. Marilyn Manson even uses that. That's why he said, you say God and I say 10, because God equals 10 and Satan also equals 10. It goes back to Thelema and, believing in the duality of the world. So just wanted to point that out. Marilyn Manson has to understand Kabbalah. Why else would he use that? Why else would he come up with this in his deal? Why would he use a character that stems from Kabbalah if he doesn't know what Kabbalah is? Also, his tour, the Heaven Upside Down tour, it began on July 20th of 2017, which is interesting because in the links, I talked about how the Stoneman Douglas shooting is connected to a moon theme as well, and that's why we got the Falcon Heavy launch, and that was super coded to the number 49. The 49th launch, David Bowie equals 49, Starman equals 49, Falcon Heavy equals 49, 2018 is the 49th anniversary of the moon landing in 1969, and look what Marjorie Stoneman Douglas equals in Gematria. In Jewish Gematria, 1969. That's the same year Marilyn Manson was born. And Marilyn Manson just turned 49 years old, and they were the Stoneman Douglas Eagles, right? 49. Just after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just super synced up. David Bowie's song, Space Oddity, even equals 49, and it came out just before the Eagle landed on the moon. So, hopefully that makes sense. July 20th, the anniversary of the Eagle landing on the moon. But it's also the same day that Chester Bennington of the band Linkin Park died. And clear back then, when he died, I even talked about how it was connected to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929, because Linkin Park is a play on Lincoln Park, that is where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened. So, super important that this show would even start on the anniversary of the moon landing, and the same day that a guy from Linkin Park dies that's connected to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So interesting too, Marilyn Manson, his birthday, super synced up. January 5th, 1969. And if you go from his birthday to Valentine's Day, it's a span of 40 days, or 40 days. And he's 49 years old, and it's also 1 month and 9 days. Remember, 19, the 19th prime is 67. The word Valentine's equals 40 to small a, but with the S exception, it equals 49, like his age. And then with the V exception, it equals 67, right? So his birthday absolutely synced up to the day, like in 3 different ways. I also pointed out in regards to the Eagles, the day before the Super Bowl, Marilyn Manson played in Milwaukee at the Eagles Ballroom, right? The day before the Super Bowl. The show that got canceled, the very first show that got canceled when Marilyn Manson got injured or whatever, it was in Boston, where the Patriots play. And then just before the Super Bowl, he plays at the Eagles Ballroom. And on January 31st, he played in Minneapolis. Super Bowl in Gematria equals 131, just like January 31st. Wish I would have saw some of the stuff before. Also, this year, the day after Valentine's, we got this story about Marilyn Manson having a meltdown at his show and ranting at fans. And what he ranted to them about was that he wasn't getting enough love. And just think about that in regards to Valentine's Day and whatever else. He wasn't, the lack of love. Later on in this article, some kid even mentioned how Marilyn Manson was rambling about how he wasn't getting any love. Right after Valentine's, he synced up to this Valentine's Day massacre. Something I never realized previously was that Marilyn Manson, he got injured on his 17th show, and then it was the 17th show in the year 17, and then he canceled 17 shows as well. And look what God equals in Gematria. Not only does it equal 10, it also equals 17. So super fitting, Wonder what heaven upside down is. Heaven upside down. I haven't looked up that in a while. Same as Donald John Trump, which is interesting. Remember in his the Satan video, it's all about the assassination of Donald Trump as well. So interesting, the original album was supposed to be called Satan, and then the hit song off of it is called Satan, and then the album name syncs up to Donald Trump. So interesting. So I was also thinking, I documented some stuff about Marilyn Manson and Revelation, because he has on that album, Heaven Upside Down, he has a song called Revelation 12, and a bunch of people were talking about Revelation 12, and, I can't even remember it all, but just, I was thinking it was something to do with Revelation 12, or Revelation 6:12, and that was a big number in regards to Valentine's, because Valentine equals 612, and this happened 612 days after the Orlando Pulse shooting. Think about that. Heart pulse. And that Pulse shooting was on 612. And Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was born in Minneapolis, where the Super Bowl was held, with the Eagles winning and whatever else. And Minneapolis is the 612 area code, and the last time they played the Patriots was on December 6th. 2015, which is 6/12. Columbine High School also equals 612. And also Dune Blaine Massacre equals 612. And that happened 6,120 days, a lot like 612, without the zero before Sandy Hook. And this massacre was one that led to many of the guns being taken away in the United Kingdom and whatnot else. So just think about that in regards to what's going on right now. But the reason that I even wrote this in here was because I was thinking that it was connected to Revelation 6:12. And if you've been following my channel, I've been talking about how everything seems to be synced up to what I was talking about in 2015 And a big portion of that was about Valentine's Day. And towards the end of 2015, I noticed this big theme with an East Coast earthquake, and I talked a bunch about how it was seemingly synced up to the Philadelphia area and a possible bridge collapse and whatever else. And Revelation 6:12 says, "And I beheld when he opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood." So just thought that was interesting. It's connected to an earthquake, 6:12. I'm telling you, everything I was talking about 2015 is synced up to this year. I even mentioned, I did a video on the San Bernardino thing that was in 2015, the San Bernardino shooting. Pretty sure I even talked about how that was connected to the movie with the big dog, Beethoven or whatever. Can't remember exactly what it was. Something to do with Beethoven. And I remember, I know I don't want to lose you, but during the Super Bowl, I was talking about all these connections to my sister and the town she lived in. They were featured in a Super Bowl commercial because of Albert the Bull, this big statue in their town. And, oh, I'm losing my train of thought. But I'm pretty sure that bull was also featured in one of the movies of Beethoven as well. So I need to go back and watch that movie or whatever. But also, the Sutherland Springs church shooting reminds us of the Charleston church shooting that happened in 2015 as well. Right around the time of gay marriage being legalized. And, every single day we see all the tranny stuff in the media constantly. Today there was one about the transgender wrestler or something. Just think about that in regards to Marilyn Manson and whatever else. It's even the play on the, guy, girl. They want you to think the good and the bad or something of American history. And then we also had the death of Daisy Berkowitz, which is also a man and a woman and whatever else. So just something to think about. But in Charleston, this Charleston church shooting, right? The worst ever East Coast earthquake recorded in the United States was in Charleston in the year 1886, something that I mentioned a whole lot. It was also where the Civil War began, right? Charleston. And what's Charleston equal in Gematria? I always forget some of this stuff. It's either 34 or 43. Charleston, where the Civil War began, equals 43. Civil War equals 43, Abraham Lincoln, born on the 43rd day of the year, became president on 4/3, died 4 months, 3 days after the Civil War began. A big, important number. But the theme, with kneeling during the national anthem and everything else, it's connected to a Civil War type theme, which was another thing that I was talking about, how it was interrelated into Valentine's in 2015. Because, man, if you go way back, I'm telling you, go way back and watch some of my videos about the Space Jam and Valentine's Day and how it synced up to Lupercalia, a wolf festival, and we had the Teen Wolves doing good in the NBA All-Star Week, like Zach LaVine won the slam dunk contest doing the Space Jam dunk, and Kevin Love got traded to the Cavaliers for Andrew Wiggins, and Andrew Wiggins won the Rising Star Challenge. He was a Teen Wolf. And in the film Teen Wolf, it's all about, they have a ton of Nebraska Cornhusker stuff in the background, and it has nothing to do with Nebraska whatsoever. There's palm trees in the movie and whatever else. It wasn't filmed there. It wasn't set there. Why do they have Nebraska Cornhusker stuff in the background of that Teen Wolf movie? And also, when he becomes the wolf, he joins the play about the Civil War. Think about Lincoln, Nebraska, where the Cornhuskers play, Abraham Lincoln. So, lots of interrelated events going on. Also, just in regards to the national anthem, the division of America, the Confederate States and the Union, right? So, one last thing and then I'm done here. I noticed that the Dune Blaine massacre was 8,008 days before this Valentine's Day massacre. And, that one led to many of the guns being taken away and a lot more gun laws and whatever else. So it just makes me wonder, Trump equals 88, 1929, right? The year of the Valentine's Day massacre. It was 89 years ago now, but the stock market crash that is super synced up to the Super Bowl is all about the number 88 as well. The stock market crash is in its 88th anniversary, and Neil equals 88, Trump equals 88, Colin Kaepernick equals 88, the Star Spangled Banner equals 88. So Herbert Hoover, HH, a lot like 88. So it doesn't seem like they make so much money off of the gun sales and whatever else. I had people at the store the other day telling me, better go buy some guns so you can sell them for a ton more money come November or whatever, because of all these shootings and whatnot. So you wouldn't think they're going to take the guns away. It's just, something for people to argue, whatever else, but who knows? You know what I mean? 8,008 days, drop the zeros, it's like an 88. Trump equals 88. We'll see what happens. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a huge Stand By Me theme that's interrelated to Marilyn Manson. I know there's more to learn with this. I haven't got it completely figured out, but absolutely what I was talking about, I just, didn't pick up on some pieces that were vital. So once again, the more people that understand this, the more people that practice this and learn this, we can learn from each other, and hopefully we can piece it together before these events do happen, and more people will catch on that all of these events are scripted, and eventually we can use this system to our advantage and quit being ruled over by this system. So have a good one. Peace.